Awaken the light. The cosmos is within you. Remember who you are.
Hello, 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 everyone. Doing two platforms today. Glad to be here. Hello, TikTok. I hope everybody is fine. I hope everybody's doing well. Forgive me for putting on a little lip moisturizer. So welcome, 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 my friends. Welcome, welcome. I hope everybody can hear me well. Um, I just want to say, first of all, love and lights. I don't know where that's coming from. Where is that sound coming from? Oh, okay, I'm looking good on YouTube. Thank goodness. Love and lights. Ashe. Welcome all to the Ak Ascension, my friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad to be here. Today is Thursday and it is 2:32 now. And today, well, on Thursdays, usually it is teaching the practice, right? And today we're going to be looking at uh, the idea is to turn around, right? Embrace your shadow. We're doing shadow alchemy practice. I'm teaching, not a live guided. Live guided is in the temple. Okay, it's in the temple, my friends. All right, and also I want to remind you that at power-profit.com/resources is the shoot practice guide. Now, the practice guide is just a sort of a snapshot, right? It gets you started. This practice expands on that guide. Okay, so I encourage you to get the guide and do some of the recognition work, right? Because as part of the power of release, you got to recognize and see. And I can only do but so much of helping folks recognize in these live streams. It is important that we do our work. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you. Thanks for joining. It's important that we do our own work. And as I have said several times, it's also important that we understand that there's not always going to be a teacher, a guide to do this work with you. One, two, because this work is stuff that we have to understand and do on our own, like daily hygiene. It becomes important to gather this information and figure out its practice in your own life for you, right? Because some of these activities may take shape differently for yourself. Like when I started in this walk, I would take I would take the practices from various teachers and do them directly as they communicated them, right? And then over time, I started to understand through my own downloads of intuition ways in which I could tweak, change, manifest the practices as something more unique to myself, right? And that's what I encourage everyone to do. And that is why this is not a live guided practice, but this teaches what the practice of shadow alchemy can, and I say can, look like, because there may be more than one way, and there is, to do this work. And for each individual, it is unique. So before I get started with teaching the practice, right now I'm talking to the YouTube folks. Please hit like, subscribe, and hit notifications. We want to get in the algorithm. So if you're enjoying these live streams, other people may find them pop up in their feeds. So that would help out a lot. And TikTok, how y'all doing? I'm glad you're here. I appreciate your time for coming and sitting with me in this. And please follow. And I encourage everybody to go to power-profit.com/resources to again get the shoot practice guide. Again, it is a snapshot of activities, but it's getting you to think about aspects of your shadow that you may have been hiding. So it helps you recognize in order to release. Okay, recognize in order to release. And this week, today, is actually we're in the gate of Ba, and this is the last day of shoot the shadow, right? That's also on power-profit.com. You can see the path that I share in these live streams. Okay, TikTok, I'm seeing you. Thank you. Appreciate y'all. And YouTube, I really appreciate you as well. For being here. So this is the last day of the shoot before I get into the teaching. Tomorrow, I've started a new thing called the Weekend Wrap, playing on the words there, wrap, like wrap up, but wrap, right? RAP, because it is just bringing some sort of conclusion and summary to the body of light that we covered this week. I think it's important to like put a period on it. And I always feel some type of something on Thursdays when I don't come back till Tuesdays, that folks are just left hanging out there. So Fridays is just a relaxed, me discussing things. I may read some oracle cards, do some stuff, but it is a wrap up of the body of light we covered that week. And on Mondays, I'm also implementing a new live stream. This is on Power Profit TV on YouTube. Mondays, I have decided to do an intro, a general intro discussion about the ideas in the body of light being covered for that week. Next week, we're talking about the Ba, okay? And so Monday would be just a general discussion of what are those concepts, not getting into the Ba specifically, because Wednesdays I teach on the Ba. Wednesdays is always a teaching day, but I just want to give a little grounding. That's it, a little grounding on Mondays, okay? And then, as you know, Tuesdays, I bring in some contemporary contextualization to the body of light, so that it isn't like something that is, out there, but that these bodies of light have resonance in what is happening in the reality in which we inhabit, albeit we experience it differently, right? We all inhabit this reality, and there's so many things going on. And we inhabit it differently. And definitely tomorrow, I saw something, and I'm going to get into the shadow alchemy in a minute, but I just have to share the level of just grief that I felt when I saw this young Black woman, this child, getting beat up by the police in Arkansas. There's not one Black mama out here who could see that and not feel pain and anguish about this child being beat up in that way. And I know there's been tons of shootings and all this stuff that should just make us feel some sort of, it should shake us in some way, right? This brutality It really brought back the feelings of like George Floyd when the officer put his knee on his neck and was so proudly killing this man, that this white police officer, Blanco police officer, punched this little girl, was hurting her. And it took me all the way back with my ancestors during slavery. I'm like, this is some crazy. I'd rather somebody be shot. And I know I should not be saying this. That's a horrible thing too. But to see this child get beat up at the hands of this Blanco man, this Neanderthal, was fundamentally disturbing. And I will talk more about this tomorrow, because I don't care what kind of spiritual teacher you are. There's no way you can walk in this world and see this crazy stuff like this. A Black child getting punched in the face, beat on the ground, and not speak on it. This is beyond. And I don't want anybody to get hurt in any way. Forget the shooting. But listen, it's hard for a Black mama. I don't know about other mamas. I know about Black women. I'm a Black woman. I know a lot of Black women. We can't see that and not get shocked and mad and angry. So I want all them Black mamas to know I feel you. I understand. And we feel a little bit helpless right now. Now, granted, we could be spiritual all we want, and we have faith, and we believe that things will move and we can rise above and vibrate high. I get that. But it's a pain in us today and in our ancestors today that we are recreating the same scenarios. So not only do we have the police killings, the ICE killings, now we have additionally the beating in the street. Before, we didn't see the Black children being beat up in the street. Now we see exactly what these people are doing to everybody. For some reason, Black folks may have thought that we were not going to be included in whatever this crazy mess is we call the United States of American Neanderthals. Okay, and if y'all get the Neanderthal reference, look at Dr. Umar. I kind of like the way he says that. There's something afoot here, and I will talk about this tomorrow in depth, because I have had downloads and visions that I need to share, and that's part of the weekend wrap tomorrow. But I just want to say I'm sitting with all my Black mamas. I'm sitting with everybody who's feeling the pain of what happened in that video clip. And that young girl calling out for her mama. Calling out for her mama. I am livid. And I gotta laugh because I am so livid. I think I'm beyond livid. I feel like I'm in a space-time continuum of energy right here, where my body has been sliced up and I'm living in multiple dimensions at this time. My foot is in the past. It's in the Middle Passage. It's in slavery. It's in Jim Crow. It's in the continuation of the Blancos, the Neanderthals' attack on anything that does not reflect their sickness or acquiesce to their sickness. And then I'm sitting in the future at the same time, a space-time continuum. I'm sitting in the future and I'm saying very clearly to myself, what is Ibrahim Traore doing in Burkina Faso that can be done here to protect the Black and brown people of this nation? Because clearly there is absolutely nothing these Blanco Neanderthals can do to change any of this, because they are soulless and sick. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Talk about something bringing tears to your eyes. That brought some tears to my eyes. That brought some tears to my eyes. And I'm going to do a live stream on the strategies that are happening in Burkina Faso that can provide some sort of structure or framework for Black peoples here in America, because we don't know what the hell we are doing. We thought we could fit in. Well, some people thought they could fit in. And they still fitting in, thinking that they are safe. I think that's shadow right there. People thinking that they're safe within a space of Neanderthal-esque behavior and thinking, the rudimentary, dichotomous, simplistic thinking that happens with these soulless people. But that little girl thought she was safe. I bet that mama thought on some level her child was safe. I bet we all thought we were safe with all of those amendments in the Constitution. And still praying to the White House. It isn't safe about none of that. All right, y'all. Look, the sign on my TikTok board says inner peace now. Hey, y'all, inner peace now. Inner peace now. We can still have inner peace and still feel the fire. Okay? Wasn't Jesus Christ righteously indignant when he went into the temple and threw all them people out of there? No, I don't ascribe to Christianity. I've been there and done that. I don't believe in any of that. The Bible has some good nuggets in it, but the idea about righteous indignation and being spiritual, they go together. There is some bodies that have to stand up in a metaphysical, moral sense to bring clarity to the mess that we're all in, because it seems like many, many, many leaders and peoples, and even in my DMs and comments I get about the things I say, these older folks, the old folks, right, our elders, they're mad, talking about, we fought for this. For what? I honor the deaths. I honor the sacrifices. I honor all that. But what the heck did we fight for? So my question is, since I'm in this space-time continuum, existing in the past, present, and future, simultaneously, what are we going to do? How are we going to fundamentally change the nature of the United States, of Americans dominated by the Neanderthals? And for those who don't understand that reference, you have to know, with all this genetic testing and DNA, they have traced Blanco DNA, Blanco folks' DNA to the Neanderthals. That's not everybody, that's them. So get mad at me all you want. Who gonna stand up for us? Who gonna fight for us, if not us? Who gonna speak truth to power, if not us? I don't know anybody that's gonna do that, except us. And what strategies do we have? So I'm doing a special live on the ways in which Burkina Faso has done what it's done, right? But make those strategies relevant to perhaps how we walk forward and secure ourselves in the United States of Americans dominated by the soulless Neanderthals. And you can be mad at me all you want. I don't care. And me, I'm sweating. I swear to God. Might be going through my second menopause. Second? Let me backtrack that. I'll say my first. Hey, TikTok. All right, YouTube. I got off. I got off. And yes, my air conditioner is really working today. Yesterday, I was having a hot flash. So after I said all that, my friends, welcome back. Welcome back. Okay. And you know, I just wanna talk about some of the things. Give me a second here. Give me a second. Give me a second. I just want to talk about, like, sort of bring together what we did on Tuesday and on Wednesday into this. Give me a second. Give me a second here. I'm losing something. I'm still here. Give me a second. I don't know what's happening around here. I'm losing my notes. Give me a second. I don't mean to waste your time. And TikTok, how y'all doing? Give me something in the comments, all right? Give me something. YouTube, you do the same. We might have a little glitch in the stream. I gotta open something up real quick. How y'all doing? TikTok, don't forget the gifts. You know what I mean? Give me a second here. I'm getting to it. I hope I didn't mess up my stream. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna tell you when it went. Look, I don't know what's going on here. Give me a second. My notes just went bye-bye. Give me a second here. If I was smart, I'd hang up and come back. I'm here, y'all. I'm here. I gotta check the thingamajiggy out real quick, because you know when I open stuff up, sometimes get a little. All right, give me a second, y'all. I'm having some technical difficulties here. I'm having some technical difficulties. Give me a second. All right, y'all. So yeah. So, you know, as I was saying, you know, Tuesday, I kind of got into, you know, what was happening. Right. And I was getting, and now I'm losing my stream for, there we go. I was getting into what was happening with the Haitians, right? Um, I saw this man just break down after getting the ankle bracelet, and he just broke down, fell on the ground, just started crying. I felt that. I really did feel that, right? And then, I was talking about how Blanco people. If you know what Blanco is, Blanco, I believe, means white in Spanish. So I'm using that because I'm realizing that TikTok, and since I do streams on TikTok and YouTube simultaneously, TikTok has a problem with some terminologies. So now I have to talk in code, right? So I say Blanco, people de Blanco, or Neanderthals, or the soulless. These are my words. Kim, is black. But we talked a little bit about, a false shadow, the false shadow that we carry, that is not ours, right? It's a falsehood given to us by the world, and in particular by the soulless, right? It's their monster. It's their monster that they put on us of the shadow. And so the remedy was for them to do their own shadow work. We got to use different terminologies. Maybe something might resonate with them where they want to do some work to help fix themselves. I don't know about y'all, but in my sort of perusal of social media, listening to some of the preeminent scholars, thought leaders, spiritual leaders, they have a problem, a serious problem. And it's been that way, I think, since the Enlightenment, or since what, Portugal went in Africa? I don't know. But they got some issues, and they got shadow work to do. And so that was really, and the shadow work is sort of paying attention to the way in which their monster is projected onto us. Of course, they don't see it as a monster. They don't see a lot of things because they're so busy doing gymnastics in their head. Gymnastics in their head to make everything fit into their little boxes. That they can't see nothing because they don't want to see anything. So that was on Monday. So I gave a social prescription to the soulless and to Kim people to not take on their monster. And then we also, the monster, it builds out of its own fear. It builds out of its own fear. They build out of their own fear, right? The one we watched being forced now onto Haitian people, although it's always been forced onto Kim folks across the African diaspora. And we learned the first move in discussing this, and that is to recognize that part of what we see in our shadow, I would even say most of it, is not ours. It's, my phone is overheating. A lot of it is due to this society in which we live and the way in which the soulless have ravaged this world. So recognize that many aspects of your shadow are not yours. Refuse it and hand that stuff back. And then yesterday in the teaching, I turned to the true shadow, right? The sacred shoot, S-H-U-T. And we learned it is not a threat Because while we need to recognize aspects of our shadow that have been given to us, there are things in our shadow, because our shadow is uniquely tied to the Ka, right? To the bloodline, right? And it's our protection. It holds our gifts, our buried grief, right? And our ancestral memory. Our shadow is the bearer, which is a uniquely different take than what we get from regular spiritual teachings about and psychological information about the shadow self. Right? And I forgot to maybe folks don't know me. My name is Minister Dr. Akila Ka Ma'at, my friends, and this is the Arc Ascension. Just so we all know. And today, what I want to share with you is how to reclaim your shadow, how to get it back. Shadow alchemy, right? Because in African spiritual traditions, there is no shadow self per se, right? There is the shadow, right? And so we don't want to spiritually bypass the shadow because it is so unique and important to our walk, right? To our Ren, our name, right? It activates and motivates Nomo, the generative word power. What it is we say, or at least it should activate that, so that we call in what it is that we want to see, what we need, what we believe is important to prospering. I don't mean just money, but prospering on every level in life, right? But the shadow is the protection, the power, our gifts, our buried grief, and our ancestral memory. And so shadow alchemy is figuring out how to get all that back. And so step by step, I'm going to communicate with you how you would do shadow alchemy in your own quiet time. And if you feel so inspired, you could actually engage this live teaching in the temple, which is the Arc Ascension community. Okay. And I also want to say one more time, I want to put a tool in your hand, which I keep telling people about on my website, power-profit.com, right? Under resources in the practice guides library. These are free resources. There is the Shoot practice guide, which gives you a little bit of some reflective exercises to recognize and then to put the shadow alchemy into practice. Okay. And so if you have not gotten it yet, go download it. Okay. And use it because it goes with today's teaching. All right. I take time to develop these practice guides and they're free for now. Right. When the Arc Ascension is over, they will no longer be free. And they're only up there for the week that we are covering. Okay. Mama got to make some money too, you know. Not that that's what this is all about, but you know, I don't know. When I was in my spiritual walk, trying to raise my consciousness, spiritually awake, I was getting every free resource in the book because I didn't want to pay all this money. And maybe I did pay a little money, but I was collecting all those free resources, like those free conferences, the virtual conferences online. I saw somebody speaking, it'd be free. I don't know what folks are doing nowadays, but maybe everybody's rich, right? Or think they rich. Although rich can be many things. Maybe people just got lots of disposable income. So this practice and the guide, they line up, right? The guide and today share the very same heart, all right? And the very same first move. The guide says it right on the page. The part of you they taught you to fear is the part that's still holding you. So turn it around. Turn it around, my friends. All right? Turn toward it. And that is the exact turn I teach you to practice today. At the center of the guide is a core practice. It calls turning around, right? So I try to keep the language the same. A shadow letter you write to the exiled Jew. You write your shadow a letter, right? I give you directions in there. And then you have a daily ritual card and a 7-day tracker. And that is your map to claim back your shadow. All right. So where today opens up, the guide gives you the steps in brief. Okay. So today I'm going to go through each one all the way, and we're going to add the grounding that keeps this safe, right? The grief that so many of us skip. We cannot forget our grief. And people think somebody got to die to have grief. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Nobody has to die to have grief, to be grieving. You don't need to have somebody unalive that you loved. No. I have a live stream up on Power Profit TV about that. Okay. And so we're going to add also the deeper truth of what the shadow is protecting. All right. And the reason that this is done in the body and in community, right? Because we don't necessarily want to do this work always alone. Like I said, we got to know how to practice for ourselves, because there's not always going to be a guide there. And if this is your walk, if this is how you want to transform and change, you got to learn how to practice alone. At the same time, though, a community of like-minded people can make the walk a little easier, because you have folks to ask questions to, understand their experience of the same exercises and practices. And you have a place to talk and share. All right. And again, I'm putting the plug in for the tempo. All right. So let me tell you what this practice actually is. Okay. All right. Shadow alchemy is the sacred work of turning toward your own dark, not to fight it. I'm not talking about fighting it, but to receive what it is keeping, and to turn old, held pain into power. Some people believe they don't have pain. Nothing ever happened to me. People even say I never experienced racism. Look, as a researcher in the academy, I have done research on racism and pregnant women. And I've had women from down south tell me they've never experienced racism. As a researcher, who am I to judge? But that's very interesting, right? But we all have some pain, regardless, that comes from society, that comes from family, that comes from our own hatred of self. People say, I don't hate myself. You know, I would love if none of us did. But if you live in American society, unless you got some really conscious parents, live in a conscious community, do conscious work. I don't care if you go to church. Religion does not get rid of self-hate. As a matter of fact, I think it digs it in even more, right? But unless you're around conscious people, there is a level of self-hate. Unless you've done the work, there is a level of self-hate. And there's pain, because self-hate causes pain. And that pain needs to be grieved. Now, I'm not here to tell people who and what they are, what they have, but I've been doing this work a long time, and there are some things that are held in common across Kim people. And when I say Kim, you should know by now I'm talking about Black folks. That's why recognition is so critically important, to begin to pull back the layers of BS that we have been ensconced within, so that we can see the reality of ourselves, which is so hard to see. And we act like we can see everybody else's stuff, their shadows, their junk, right? And you know, all that is BS. Because if a person cannot see their own junk, they should not be speaking into your life about anything that you may have or may not have going on. That's just how it works. That's the way it should work. So, let me be clear about the wrong way that this work has been done, right? Because this is the way the spiritual world, en masse will sell it to you. The wrong way, of course, is to rise above the shadow, rise above the pain, rise above the grief, rise above the trauma, right? Of course, we can go into therapy, but therapy tells you that your parents did you wrong and you got the problem. That's some BS too, right? It's all wrong. Look, I was in therapy for 30 years. Okay? You are not the problem. You're not the problem. Your parents are not the problem, and your parents are not the problem. The problem is society, which screws people over and thus screws them up. You could be mad at your parents for not being smart enough to understand how society was using them to destroy themselves, their families, and their neighborhoods. You'd be mad at the kids for acting wild because maybe they didn't have the training and they could be a little unruly. But the ultimate entity that is to blame for all of this is a pathogenic society. There's salutogenic and there's pathogenic. Salutogenic is good, healthy, supportive. Pathogenic is bad, harmful, violent. We live in a pathogenic society. And if we have a pathogenic society that is harmful, and this is the air we breathe, the place we walk, piss, poop, work, sleep, you better believe that you are impacted by the pathogenic environment, okay? In ways that undermine your capacity to feel free, strong, powerful, and self-determined. And that stuff also gets thrown into the shadow because we get scared and we think the fear is the issue. If I rise above that, I'm not going to get off on a tangent right here. I'm going to keep it light a little bit, right? So the way the shadow self is taught in many circles, in spiritual world is, speak good things, just do your walk. Don't worry about it. Everything will, never look down into the dark. Nowadays we may be doing more work. But overall, it's about spiritual bypassing, right? And that is why it's so important to recognize the ways in which you may be hurting. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't know why I'm sweating so much. Whew. And I'm going to tell you something. The only time a guide may really be necessary, right, is to help uncover the things that you cannot see. That's why we go to psychologists. But see, the whole field of psychology is about letting you know that you have the problem and that the problem came from somebody else who had problems, right? Doesn't put the ownership on where it belongs. Guides can help you recognize what you cannot recognize in yourself. And that is critically important. I'm not saying don't go see a psychologist or don't go to a psychiatrist, but I'm going to tell you right now, they are diagnosing people en masse with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, all kind of stuff, giving us drugs, having us believe that we're bipolar, calling ourselves bipolar. I'm bipolar. I'm not going to say anything about that because if you got medication, maybe you need to take it. But that's another discussion about these psychotropic drugs and these diagnoses. Sometimes it takes spiritual work to get through all that BS. Because the medication, all it does is dim your melanin, takes your power away, binds to melanin, screws you up. You can't think. You can't communicate with your ancestors. It cuts you off. It works for them because they don't have the same prowess or powers that we have. I'm not making a claim that we're better and bigger, although you can probably guess my stance on that from what I talk about. What I am going to say, that medication works for them because they are blocked off anyway. But for us, all of these medications from all of these, and they are all bad medications. We only should take them for a little bit of time and then figure out something else to do. But that's why a spiritual walk, I forget religion, a spiritual walk and a spiritual guide is important. Not in place of help in that way, but as an add-on. Because we can get to things and help you get to things that you may not ever touch upon in a psychotherapy session. Not to mention they have all these rules and regulations that they got to follow, right? That hinder them from really attending to individuals as individuals. You know, they have these frameworks like cognitive behavioral therapy, right? It's like one size fits all. It works for some, but in spiritual, well, from my perspective, there is no one size fits all. There is discovering the individual. That is what it's about. Nobody is broken. Nobody is broken. Nobody is the problem. Not one person is the problem. It's about self-discovery, my friends. And it's about that shadow. Because when you follow this world and say, your shadow is a pain in the neck, I'm going to push it down so far and not deal with it. That is trauma in and of itself, enough to make you a little loopy. Because you need you. You need your shadow. I'm on a soapbox today. Soapbox today. All right. But look, we don't only want to speak of the good things, smile all the time, and act like ain't nothing wrong with us. We ain't got no problems, right? Right? You're not the problem. Ain't nothing wrong with you, but there could be some things wrong with us that day or for a while. And we're gonna have some challenges, right? But you gotta look down in the dark. You gotta go to the dark to reclaim, rebirth, renew. Everything is born in the dark. You cannot receive what your shadow is holding by avoiding your shadow. As a matter of fact, the shadow is a key to inner peace. Now, so I'm going to give you the steps. All right. This is easy peasy. Again, this practice is in the temple, the Aquacentric community. So step one, you always want to prepare your space. Always got to prepare your space and ground yourself. I've done videos on breathing. I've done videos in the dark awake. All that stuff is there, you know, and how to sit in a chair. I've done live guided meditations on Power Profit TV. But you want to find a quiet time and a quiet private space that you will not be interrupted. That means take your phone and put it away. Turn TV off. Put the kids somewhere. Whatever you got to do, find some private time. A lot of us say, well, I ain't got no time. I'm busy. Well, that means you ain't never going to know you. If you ain't got no time to know you, you ain't never going to know you. Keep running. Keep running. What's going to happen? You're going to see what's going to happen. If you don't have time for you, something's going to make you have time for you. And you ain't going to like the way that's going to roll out. So you make some time. All right? Put on a candle. I don't know. You want it to be a moment where you can sit. All right? And make sure your both feet are on the floor. You always got to be grounded. Your feet are your root. All right? It's like a tree in the ground. Many people want to go outside and put their feet in the earth. I support that practice. As a matter of fact, I bring dirt into my home. Fresh dirt, not just for my plants, but for my altar. Oh my goodness. All right. So feet flat on the floor. Second step, once you get chill, relaxed, I might even say put on some meditative music. Then that could be whatever you think is meditative, right? I like black coffee, okay? Low in the background. I love me some black coffee. All right. But then there's just regular meditative music, which is fine. Anything that's going to help you just relax. All right. And then what you want to do is you want to turn toward. You want to turn toward. You know, for your whole life, you have kept your back to your shadow because you thought it just wasn't working for you. And if you could ignore it, let it go, you know, push it down, you were going to be all right. But, and also you run from it. I know I've run from my shadow. Managed it. Like I said, hit it. But in this practice, you're going to do the opposite. There's no running, no hiding, no ignoring in this practice. In your mind and in your body, because your body is a part of everything that you do. There is no just up here. It's the whole. You face your shadow, right? This is not a fight. This is not a confrontation. This is not for you to judge yourself and tell you how screwed up you are. Don't even go there. Remember, all of these practices, you sit in self-love, self-compassion. You can even put your hand on your heart. Close your eyes and picture your shadow. Remember, I talked about yesterday in ancient African spiritual tradition, the shoot is figured as a black figure, right? I have a name for my shadow. All right. Now, perhaps that's an advanced thing, but the black shadow from ancient African spiritual traditions, you have a name for your shadow if you're more advanced. But what you want to do is picture your shadow. Picture your shadow. You know how they have vision boards? People put up all these pictures of materialistic things, right? What does your shadow look like? If you could put a face on your shadow, what would it be? If you was going to name your shadow, what would the name of your shadow be? I have a name for mine. And for a while, I thought I could separate that entity, that shadow entity, from myself. But then I realized I was separating the little girl from my spirit, right? The little girl that wants to be heard and recognized, held, understood, treated kindly, wanting to have fun, to laugh freely, to dream wildly. So I was bypassing my shadow by giving it a name, but I realized that I needed that little girl because the shadow was the little girl, me. Does your shadow have a name? Does your shadow have a face? I implore you to give your shadow a name and or a face and or picture the black figure that the shoot is represented as an ancient African tradition. And you could say something like, I see you. I am not running anymore. I am not afraid of you. These are declarative statements. Statement of fact, even if you don't feel it, you say it. I see you. I am not running from you. I am not afraid of you. So, step 2, you talk to your shadow, but step 2 is also name your shadow. Give your shadow a name. Because many times when we name something, it becomes personified, right? Personified means it exists as an entity, even if it's just well, we're all frequency and vibrations. So it exists. And it's easier to work with and maneuver than just some abstract concept, the shadow self. What the heck is that? If your shadow is protecting you, holding your gifts, your power, it should have a name. And that way it becomes much more easy to embrace and to love, as opposed to being some abstract. I don't operate in abstractions because I just don't roll like that. That's not the kind of spiritual teacher I am. I mean, I could talk abstractions all day and night, but when it comes to spiritual practicing, we have to make it real and tangible, because we operate in the real. We operate on the tangible. So step 3, after you love on your shadow, I see you. I'm not running from you. I'm not afraid of you. You honor your shadow. You honor it. Hence, giving a name is a really nice way to begin to honor your shadow. And you thank your shadow. And if you want more insight into this, I implore you to go and look at the live stream from yesterday so you can get more of a grounding into what I'm talking about today. And step 3 is where the old fear and shame begin to melt. But you have to do these activities over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And no, it doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be the same old, same old. That's why being in a community of like-minded souls give you ideas of how you can play with these practices. Right? Remember who you are actually facing in your shadow. It's you. It's you. You. Now, to name your shadow, your name may be a little bit confusing, right? But I see my shadow as a friend, hence the name, right? If my shadow is that little girl that I used to be, I got to love on her with a name so that I can see her. I can feel her. I can know she is there. Your shadow is the oldest friend that you have. Don't sleep on that. Your shadow knows you better than anybody else. But we don't even look at it like that. We look at the shadow as a problem, not as a friend who has traversed your life with you loyally, waiting for you to pay attention to it. Your shadow is your sacred protective double, right? The Ka. It's the bloodline, but the Ka is also a double. Your shadow is your double. Walked every single step of your existence with you, guarded your existence when it needed to be guarded, and who carried what would have broken you. Your shadow in ancient African tradition does this. I keep saying that because we get caught up in these Western, Eastern, all these things that have no resonance with the grounding and sacred activities for which our African ancestors actually taught all of them. Right? Edward Bruce Bynum has this book, The African Unconsciousness. And he charts, this is a phenomenal scholar. He charts the way in which at ancient African civilizations, folks moved throughout the globe and seeded every part of this world with their DNA, with their spirituality, with how they cook, how they talk. As a matter of fact, language at its root has a reflection of Africa. Language, every language on the face of this earth has a root in Africa. Edward Bruce Bynum, and he's not the only one. The African Unconscious, you can get it on Audible. If you got a subscription, you can get it for $1. Get the book. I like books, like I hold them, right? You want to change? You want to know? You want to raise your consciousness? Then you have to read and engage material, let you know. If you don't aspire to Africa, you don't believe it has nothing to do with you, then that's fine. That's fine. That is so okay. So, talking about step 3, your shadow. You thank it. You speak to it with reverence because you respect your shadow. The way our ancestors honored the shadow instead of fearing it. In my own practice and what I tell my clients, you can use words like, thank you for protecting me. Thank you for carrying what I could not. I am sorry I was taught to be ashamed of you. I honor you now. Step 4. This is step 4. If you feel grief, even if you don't feel grief, step 4 is important. let the grief or the grief you don't believe you have move. Okay? And this is the tender piece here. So I'm going to teach you how to hold this together gently. You ask your shadow what grief it has been carrying for you, because maybe it has protected you to the point where it can't even communicate to you what the grief is you're holding. Right? You ask the shadow, what grief are you carrying for me? The sorrow your shadow buried for you just to keep you walking. And then, if you can, let a little bit of that move. I have to say many times in these practices, these group sessions, clients are moved to tears. Because it can be just that powerful. And you only do it as much as it feels safe. Okay? You don't stress and traumatize yourself trying to be spiritual. That's the last thing any spiritual teacher wants. Is somebody to be traumatized by practice. So you ask what grief it has been holding only as much as it feels safe. Okay? And you might drop a tear. You might find yourself breathing a little harder. You might start making a humming sound. You might even start to tremble. You might do all those things together. None of that is falling apart. None of that is bad. All of that is good as long as you understand how far you can go. And that's why sometimes it's important to do this work with other people in community or at a retreat, right? Or with your guide, right? That's shadow alchemy, all right? And here is the skill that keeps you safe. So I want to teach it to you. If step 4 becomes too much, asking to see the grief, just stop. Stop. Open your eyes, feel your feet on the floor, you breathe. You simply witness instead of moving forward. You just stop. You stop. You don't torture yourself. You stop. You are in control of yourself. If the grief down here gets really deep as you're doing this shadow alchemy, old trauma, the kind that needs more than a candle and a breath, that is strength, not a weakness, right? And you could bring it to a counselor or a trusted person to talk about it. Don't sit by yourself if it's too much, even after you stop. That's why there's safety in numbers. That's why we do this work together. But you can say things when you're talking to your shadow about the grief. What have you been carrying from me that I never let myself feel? I am ready to let a little of this move now. So the 5th step in this practice, again, these instructions and the live guided practice is in the temple at power-profit.com/groups. Right now, I'm just sharing it with you in this live stream, right? Step 5, receive what the shadow has been carrying. This is the reunion. You got to put yourself back together. You got to realize the shadow is your protector, your power, your gifts, and your grief. You got to bring holism to yourself. You ask your shadow the question, what have you been carrying? And then you listen. You listen. If your eyes are closed, you look deep into the Kim, the dark black behind your eyelids. You might have a vision. You might see something. It could be audible. It could be visual. It could even be a smell. There are times when I smell coffee and doing this work. And the coffee is my mother. She used to make coffee every morning. The best smelling coffee in the world when I was growing up. My mom and dad used to drink like 2 pots of coffee before they went to work. I had a smell. Smells count. You listening is not just with your ears. You can also feel something. And whatever comes, a word, an image, a smell, a warmth, a memory, a knowing, you do not ask, you do not question it, okay? And you don't push it away. You receive it. Let it wash over you. Let it just come. That's a hard thing to do at first. And I'm going to tell you, that is difficult because we'll brace, we'll jerk, we'll do things. So even that takes process. I mean, that takes a process to get to step 5 where you can just receive. There are many times when I was in my Kim behind my eyelids and I would receive something, a vision I'd see and I'd brace and then I'd lose it. It'd be gone. Or I kept trying to chase it. I wanted to get it. It would be gone. It takes practice just to receive because we're not used to just receiving, my friends. We're not used to receiving. So don't be mad at yourself if you jump, if you want to chase. It's all part of the work. But when you get to step 5 and you could just sit in it and let it come, that's a beautiful, wonderful thing, a wonderful space and place to be in. Okay? So you receive it because it could be a strength, right? It could be telling you a strength. It could be communicating a boundary. It could be communicating a truth you never allowed yourself to feel. It could be giving you your voice. It could be igniting your fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby. I don't even know the song. Right? And then you do the part that most people forget here, okay? You name it. Out loud, whatever the shadow is pouring over you, the boundary, the strength, the truth, you name it out loud. Remember, no more generative word power. You name it out loud and claim it as yours because it is you and it is yours. And so we can say things like, what have you been keeping for me? If you have a name for your shadow, Raquel, right? Whatever it is, I receive it. This is my power. This is my voice. This is mine. I'm taking it back. And then you bring it home, right? You sit in it, and this whole practice can last as short and as long as you want. I would say no less than 5 minutes to get started. That's kind of speeding through, but it can last as long as you need it. But once you receive it and you name it, you want to bring it home. You want to bring it into the black light. You want to seal it and you want to close safely. So whatever you have just received, you do not leave it in the dark and walk away like nothing happened. No, you welcome it home into your body, into your life, into the black light where it belongs, my friends. In the guide, and I hope you get the guide that I have on the website, This is where you write your shadow letter to the exiled part of you. And you can write this letter over and over and over again, right? But you write your shadow letter to the exiled part of you and choose to burn it as a release or seal it as a covenant. That's a little more advanced, but that works. I just say write the letter so you can see what's happening, what you just did, what you named, what you felt, right? And when people talk about burn it to release, this may make sense for those people who do rituals and conjure and all this other stuff. But when I was working in drug rehabs and I was doing groups, sometimes we would write on river rocks something about ourselves. They would write something they didn't like, which is their shadow self. This is before I had some greater understanding. We'd throw it in the river, get rid of it, although it doesn't work that easy, right? Burning to me is a little more ceremonial, a little more ritualistic. But for some people, they may see that as conjuring, right? But you burn it as a release, something that has been holding you back. Maybe it's fear about speaking, right? If your shadow gave you back your voice, had you feel that your voice is critically important to your walk, maybe you would burn fear of speaking as a release and get rid of that. Or you can get what your shadow is telling you. If it's a boundary and you're sensing a boundary, maybe it's, I will no longer accept disrespect in a relationship. And maybe you write down what disrespect looks like, right? Maybe that's what the shadow gave you as part of the grief you felt. Maybe not having a relationship that you felt really good about per se. That's just a hypothetical example. But actually it's not. Working with clients, these things come up about relationships, right? You're going to have a boundary and you're going to name what you will not take as signs of disrespect. You can fold that bad boy up, put it in an envelope, and seal it as a covenant. All right. Maybe you have a box. You put it in a box, right? Like a secret treasure box, for lack of a better word, right? Or you put it on your altar, fold it up a piece of paper, put it on your altar. Whatever feels comfortable. Burn it to get rid of it, or you want to seal it as a covenant between you and your shadow. Okay. And this is where you speak the words that make this whole ceremony real. All right. It's a reunion declaration. And you would say something like, I am no longer afraid of my own dark. My shadow is sacred. It has been carrying what is mine. And today I take it back. I walk with my shadow, not against it. I am whole. And isn't that what every single last person wants to be? Whole. 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 I'm not talking to people that can't understand that that's like the best thing in life, to be whole. And then every single time you close the same way you opened this practice. So the guide on the website gives you the 7-day tracker for a reason here. You come back to this ritual again, this practice again and again and again. So for 7 days, if you get the shoot practice guide and you're going to do that walk, please DM me or email me. Let me know you're doing it. Let me know how you're doing. Okay. All right. Talk to me. I don't charge people to talk to me. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of my work, but I can definitely have a conversation. Listen and hear what you went through, how you went through it, how it worked. Provide some feedback. And so you close this with some deep breaths, right? Some slow breaths. You feel your feet, your body. Your eyes are closed. You open your eyes, and you just come back into the room, into your space. Thank your shadow. Thank your ancestors, my friends. That is the off ramp, and it matters as much as the beginning, the descent into the practice. And the last thing about the last step, this is practice, my friends. This is not an event. Now, when I'm doing a retreat, that is an event, right? So then when they leave, they have to do the practice. But this is practice, not a one-time event. The guide gives you a 7-day tracker for a reason, my friends. You come back to it. All right. And every time you turn toward your shadow, instead of running, your fear gets smaller and the reunion gets deeper. So you were never meant to be all light, right? We all want to be all happy and light all the time, right? No, no, no. You are meant to be whole. As I said, whole. We don't even know what whole looks like anymore, do we? What is whole? WHOLE? Does anybody know what whole is? It's like a word that makes no sense anymore. But that's what we should all be aspiring toward, holism. Okay? You were meant to be whole. And whole means you walk with your shadow. You don't throw it to the curb because it's causing you problems. All right? So that is the practice. We got 6 steps. You ground, turn toward, honor, let the grief move, receive the name, and bring it home. In a nutshell. And that's the difference, my friend, between admiring the idea of your shadow, talking about your shadow self, and actually reuniting within an African spiritual tradition with a part of you that has been holding your fire this whole time. Yeah, my eyelashes messing with me. Oh my goodness. That was a lot. But I thank you for being here. I got to put another plug in for the temple. All right. If you want to do this work guided in community and not alone by yourself to start, come home to the temple. power-profits.com/groups. I keep saying you get a 7-day free trial. It's $44 a month. And you get me. That's never a dull moment, but a lot of insight, a lot of information. I share a lot of resources that have helped my walk. It's not just about me and what I'm talking about and what I'm sharing, although I do believe that what I have to share can be helpful. But it's about all the resources, right? I don't have a hold on this knowledge. I'm a channel through which my ancestors communicate outwardly, okay, which the cosmos, the divine intelligence communicates outwardly. So come into the temple and we do this work together. We have live meetings every week. We have live meditations. We do new moon ceremonies. We do all kind of wonderful things, and it's growing. We got like 9 people now, right? And I'm very selective. I don't care if you did pay or not. I choose who gets to come and stay in the temple. We do not have people who are not active. I don't like voyeurs, right? I don't like people just sitting there looking and waiting for the good stuff. No, it's an active community, hence the reason why it is growing slowly. I'm in no rush. Okay. And also next week, I want you to know that we are getting into the sixth body in the gate of Ba. This is the Ba, okay? The eternal soul in flight, okay? So come. I think I'm going to be doing another live stream on TikTok for the teaching on Wednesday, and maybe for the practice on Thursday. But come to Power Profit TV if you want to get started on Monday and Tuesday, and then have a Friday, right? So that's where we're headed, right? And the hardest part of the whole path, right, is the part that we just finished in the gate of Ba, right? The shadow alchemy. It gets a little lighter from here, but I still need to reaffirm that these gates, the gate of Ka, Ba, and Ak, align with the power of release framework, which is recognize the gate of Ka, release the gate of Ba, and then reframe, which is the gate of Ak. Okay? And so we're still doing the work that I started at the very beginning. It's just more central to Melanin metaphysics and African spirituality, right? Ba is your eternal soul in flight. All right? So don't be afraid of your shadow, my friends. Do not be afraid of your shadow. All right? TikTok, hang out, YouTube, TikTok. I'm going to say bye-bye. Thank you for your time and attention today. I really appreciate you and just all the good stuff. Do I have something down here I need to see? Oh, I have a guest request. I don't know what that is. I'll do that another time. Thank you. All right. I'll see you guys later. Be blessed. I'm hanging up now. See y'all. Thank you. Love y'all. Bye-bye. All right, YouTube. I'm hot. That was a lot of stuff. But thank y'all for being here. I appreciate y'all too. And I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, 2:30 for the weekend wrap. All right. So please like, subscribe, hit notifications. Okay. Get me in the algorithm. Get this information in the algorithm. All right. And thank you, my friends. See you tomorrow. Be blessed. Bye-bye.